Welcome to the ToKnight Show with Superintendent Shannon Cheek, your go-to podcast for staying in the know about all the exciting happenings in your local school community. We know that we are stronger together, so today's conversation is designed to give you a greater opportunity to be actively engaged in the success of our students. And now, Mr. Cheek.
Good afternoon and welcome to the ToKnight Show, our first podcast, first episode. I have with me Mrs. Seegmiller, principal of the high school, and Mr. Seal, assistant principal and athletic director. So today I just want to have some conversation. I think it's important for our students in our community to get to know our administrators, and you're the lucky chosen ones to go first. So I'm just going to open up and talk a little bit about where I grew up and a little bit of my history, and then I'm going to turn things over to you two. So I grew up not too far from here. Both of you know that. I grew up in Bement. Was fortunate enough to compete against Arthur growing up. I remember when I interviewed for the job here, I walked through the old gym and I remember stopping and looking and reminiscing a little bit because it brought back some really fond memories. But after high school, I went to Parkland, spent some time there. Then I worked for a while, decided that I needed to get back in school, so went back to Parkland, ended up transferring to the U of I, majoring in education. That led me to my first job, which is Heritage High School. So I worked for a year at Heritage, spent some time there teaching and coaching, and then from there I ended up at Mahomet Seymour, which is where I spent the majority of my career. I spent 20 years there as a teacher, as a coach, coached football, coached basketball, and then spent 13 of those 20 years as an administrator. 5 years as an assistant principal. Mr. Seal knows that really well. We worked together there. And then I spent my last years in Mahomet, 8 years as the principal of the high school. And then I was fortunate enough to be granted the opportunity to come to Arthur and serve as the superintendent, which this is year 5 for me. So grew up in a small town, didn't grow up in Bement, grew up in Isdale. Again, was very familiar with Arthur, Tuscola, Arcola area. My dad spent 40 years of his life working at USI, Quantum, and then most recently I think it's called Lyondell. So that's a little bit of my background, my history, and where I have been. So I don't know who would like to go first, but how about Mr. Seal? Why don't you take over and
appreciate that.
and talk a little bit about your history.
So a little bit of my background. I'm originally from Weldon, Illinois, so small town. It might actually be, I don't know if Ivesdale is smaller than Weldon or not, but it's comparable. We actually played Bement growing up. We played Lovington. I remember going to Lovington and playing a basketball game there. Played at Atwood Hammond. I remember that gym. Also played at Arthur, so I was somewhat familiar with the area, and Weldon's not too far from here. My dad was a farmer, still is, and he also worked at the Clinton Power Station. Is now retired from that. My mom's a high school biology and art teacher. She spent most of her career at Argenta Oriana, so still in the area. After high school, I went to ISU, majoring in social science education. Immediately out of college, I was fortunate enough to get a job teaching and coaching at Mahomet Seymour and spent 22 years there. Social studies teacher, all different social studies topics or subjects I taught, and I coached a variety of sports as well. Ended up getting my master's at EIU, and 4 years ago got the opportunity to apply here. Was lucky enough to get an interview, and then more lucky to get the job. So that's kind of a little bit of my past and present.
Well, I'm Steffanie Seegmiller. For the locals watching this, I grew up here. I was a Juergens, so I have long, deep family roots in the Arthur area. It's not very often that I can say that my high school was bigger than yours to anyone, and I think I can say that to maybe both of you. I remember playing in Bement. I don't think I remember playing in DeLand Weldon, sorry. We didn't travel very far back in those days. I graduated from here, and then I attended Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. I had my first teaching job as a 5th grade teacher in Ball Chatham. I earned an endorsement for gifted education, and so taught my last year there in gifted education. Worked on my master's from the University of Illinois at Springfield back then. And then my husband and I decided to move back here and took over our family farm, not the farming aspect, but just moved back into the farm, which is over 100 years old and has been in my family for almost that long. So I was fortunate enough to stay at home with our kids for a big chunk of time, but then went back and worked through the U of I supervising student teaching, and Millikan University with their student teachers, and then I taught at Millikan before I joined here about 8 years ago. Can't stay away from education, I think.
Excellent. Well, this question's probably fitting considering that we're coming fresh off homecoming not very long ago. You both spend just a tremendous amount of time here at the school trying to make the experience the best that it can be for our kids, and honestly I admire that and appreciate that, and I know our kids do too. So with that being said, what would you say is the most rewarding part of that time spent?
I think for me, it's the daily interactions with staff and students. Just the conversations I have out in the hallway with students, or the opportunity to see them compete or perform in their extracurricular activities. It's always been something I've enjoyed. Just, I've always liked school, and I just like the atmosphere of school, and I think just those daily interactions are what I enjoy the most.
Good.
I think I have two parts. One is watching freshmen morph into graduates and become alumni, and seeing that changes, and that those daily interactions, seeing just how they are in English 1 and then how they end up in English 4. I love that. Honors night and walking across the graduation stage, or celebrating a senior that's landed a job that they wanted. I think that's the moment in time where I think all of the blood, sweat, and tears that we give here are worth it. I also love our teachers, watching our teachers do what they do best. So if it's a bumpy day, I think we both try to sneak away and be with students and in classrooms, and watching teachers practice their art there's just nothing better than that.
Yeah. And I meant what I said earlier. I really do appreciate the time spent and all the thought and the process of trying to make the experience the best that it can be. So it's genuinely appreciated. I've talked before, and we talked a little bit about, I've talked to both of you about my draw here, kind of getting back to my roots and getting back into a school system that is more of what I was used to when I grew up, small town USA. I just think that the excitement that's generated around smaller schools, the participation, the support from the community, the list is endless. What the advantages that I see related to working and growing up in a small town. I'm incredibly proud of growing up in a small town. I felt like it provided me opportunities to do things and see things from a different perspective. So I was very, very excited and blessed to get back to more of my roots. So I think you both have similar backgrounds as I do in terms of growing up. And really, when you look at the schools and the process and kind of the path that we've taken, we have all three of us worked in a larger setting school district as well. So keeping that in mind, what are kind of your thoughts about being educated in a smaller rural community versus kind of a larger urban setting? Do you have any thoughts related to that? Differences, advantages, just thoughts in general?
You want to take this one first?
Sure. I think the advantage here is that the faculty knows the students and being able to support them. And if they see a student struggling or they're not being successful in their class, they can find a teacher that knows them and help support them with that. I think that has to be it. I also think students being able to participate in the award that you created, the Tri-Athlete Award, a student being able to participate in a sport for each season, or be able to participate in basketball and the school play, or be in band and a cheerleader. That crossover that's not easily done in a large school where there's so much more competition and demands on the program. So I think that helps provide I think we offer a lot of opportunities within the building.
Yeah, I think one of the things when I talked about when I was interviewing for this position was um, the excitement about the possibility about coming back to a smaller community. I think the word for me is community. I see that kind of what you talked about with the interactions with students and teachers here. I had a great experience in my previous district. I have nothing to say bad against that school district. I was looking for an opportunity to kind of get back to my roots and back to what I was kind of grew up with. And I think that's the interaction. You both touch upon opportunities. I think sometimes we think small schools don't have as much opportunities. There's more programs or more clubs or more athletics available at larger urban schools. But I think students get as many, if not more, opportunities at a small school to participate in a variety of different things. And I think that's what makes small schools in general and specifically here really special.
Yeah. So, both been here a period of time now. In reflecting on your time here and thinking about specifically the high school, what are some programs or what are some organizations or what are some opportunities that either you have had a hand in creating or you've just helped enhance that you might be most proud of? Whether that's a program or whether that's an activity or just anything.
Well, I'll speak from the athletics side. I'm very proud of our athletic program, our student athletes, and our coaches. I think that for a school our size, I think we provide a lot of opportunities, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of how hard our kids work, the character that they show when they're competing, and expand that even to our extracurriculars, the performances of our students. I'm really proud of our extracurricular program in general. I think that's the first thing that kind of comes to my mind when I think about what I'm proud of. I'm also proud of this year we have a student athlete leadership council that's just taking off. I'm excited about hearing from students, getting their voice in our extracurricular programs and athletics, and I'm looking forward to what that can turn into.
Good.
Our school, the culture around that is coming from our athletic programs has just blown up really in the last 3 years, and I think that's awesome. It's so fun to hear the competition at homecoming week, and this is an outcome of our athletics, but listening to the tug of war competition, I have it saved on my phone, and I didn't get the loudest one because I thought the loudest one was going to be the last one. The competition for third place, it was so loud in the gym with all of the students cheering. I mean, it's one of those things that you're going to remember forever, and so I love that part of the school culture, and I think our athletic program has really built that school spirit. I think in my second year here, we started dabbling with dual credit, and I think that has to be one of the things that I feel makes us different and makes us stronger, is being able to offer those dual credit classes. So we had a student last year who graduated with 32, 36 credit hours, and at least one. And so I think that's incredible that they can do that, because that's a opportunity to practice taking college classes in a space that they're familiar with at a very reduced cost. So, and then I think an outreach of some of our, at the other end of college, is some of the programs that we're able to offer that I don't know that I started them, but I certainly believe I've helped push them. Our partnership with Tri-County in the welding, our auto tech, the CNA program, just different opportunities to figure out. And I also really appreciate the blended learning program. So I feel like we've gone from a place where everybody has to be here from 8:05 until 3:13 to it's a little bit more individualized and a little bit more like the real world.
Good, thank you. So I hit on this earlier about the time that you spend here. I know you probably don't want to sit and try to calculate how much time you do spend here, because it might shock you, but I know there's a lot of rewards to your job. I understand that you've spoken about some of that. but let's talk about some of the challenges. I think that you both, probably what makes your job kind of interesting and a lot of fun in some ways is also challenging, right? I mean, you wake up every day and you have a plan, and sometimes that plan doesn't go like you like it. But what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've been faced with administratively?
You go. Oh, go
I would say probably my immediate answer to that is depends on the day, right? But that's also, you touched upon, like in education, you never know exactly how the day's going to go. And that's always been something that's intrigued me. I've enjoyed when I was in the classroom, even if I was teaching the same class between, third and fourth period are not the same. And I always enjoyed not knowing exactly how it was going to go. And you do have a plan, and sometimes your plan doesn't go, or things don't go according to plan. So that does happen. I think one of the challenges, you mentioned the time. One of the challenges I face is that work-life balance, finding some things, because to make sure I'm not here all the time, because I know myself, and if there's something coming up, or an event, something along those lines, I will probably be here sometimes too long. I think my wife would tell you that as well. So I think one of the challenges for me, just on a personal level, is that work-life balance.
Yeah, it's hard. I think we could probably spend 18 to 20 hours a day here and feel like we didn't have our to-do list of all the things we want to get done. Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge for me is in society, not just here in our district, that the value of education, a high school diploma, has changed. And if I could shift one piece, that's what I would shift. If everybody valued a high school diploma and valued education, I think it would make it would change the dynamics of our job. But to be honest with you, I think it would make it. I'm sure it would bring challenges, but it would make it easier.
Okay, so you get a wish. If you could wave a magic wand, if you could have a wish and change anything in education, what would be one thing that you would like to be able to change just tomorrow?
Just one thing.
Just one.
Well, I'm going to cheat on this then, because I'm going to say locally. Locally, what I would change is facilities here at the high school. That would probably be my one wish with a magic wand, and poof, we would have every thing we've ever wished for, facility-wise. Globally, well, let me think about that. Do you want to go?
I think we both think facilities. If we had a quick magic wand, I think it would be a game changer for our students and our faculty, hands down. Globally, if I were in charge of the education world with a magic wand, I would change. I think every student here needs an individual education plan. I think gifted, average, with a disability, with not out a disability. I think every student is different, and every student deserves that, and that's way bigger than anything. I'd put 2 teachers in every classroom. I mean, I can go on and on. I'd have every teacher have a 3-hour break where they're researching and studying the best strategies in their classroom for what to be effective. I think we have to look at education differently at some point. We can't keep doing things the same way. If that means that some students come to school from 10 to 5 and some students come, so that's what their schedule works like, and some students need to work, so they're here from 8 to 3. I think we can't continue to do things and keep up with what the world is demanding.
So you said magic wand, right? Because I don't have all this figured out yet. So I think I would have no grades. I think we'd have an opportunity for students to come and learn without the pressure of grades. I don't have it exactly figured out how we'd evaluate that learning without some of those grades, but I think if there weren't grades and kids got the opportunity to just come and learn without that added pressure, that would be something that I'd like to see.
Good. So let's take the last 10 years. What we hear all the time, and we've had this conversation individually and as a group administratively, about how things change, right? And are things really changing? So think about maybe in the last 5-10 years, what in your mind, and maybe the answer is nothing, what has changed in our world, in the education world. Can you think of anything that really stands out as something that's been like, wow, yeah, there's been a major shift in the last 10 years?
I think, the old saying is kids are different these days. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think the society that kids are growing up in changes. And I think, with how we grew up is obviously different than in 2023. And even in the last, I think you said 5 to 10 years, technology is changing. I think with all the technologies and the opportunities that we have now, it changes education too. I mean, we're a reflection of society, so I definitely see, if I had to say one thing, I'd say it's technology.
I think it's the value of education. I think that across the country, people just aren't convinced that coming to high school is a good idea or should be required. So I think that's the battle that has changed a lot. I mean, our day-to-day, how we teach has certainly changed, more collaborative. Teachers aren't expected to close their door. We expect them to collaborate and work together. But I think society-wise, that's the hardest part.
Good. So just one more question before we wrap things up. So is there anything that you have coming up, any future projects, any future events, anything that you're really excited about that you want to just communicate before we kind of wrap things up? Anything you want to mention?
I think in general for me, I'll take this first.
Yeah.
In general for me, what I enjoy so much about working with, well, really both of you, is you're both open to trying something new and trying something that maybe we haven't done before. And there isn't one thing I'm thinking of right now that is that next thing, or I'm more excited than something else. But just, always trying to grow our extracurricular programs, and what are some things that we can do to make this event bigger or more enjoyable for our student athletes or our performers, etc. So that kind of drives me of always trying to make that improvement, and I enjoy even if it's a small change, I enjoy those things a lot. So I think our opportunity, when we talk about things, we're always having discussions about how can we be better, and that's what excites me.
Awesome.
I think the little things like, it's not little to us, but Veterans Day and the holiday for haircuts, you're bringing a speaker in to talk about social media safety. Those things where we get our community members and we can get more people in our building are always great opportunities. In the big picture, I'm toying with the thought of every student should take an AP class or a blended class or a dual credit class, no matter what track they're on. I really want to grow our programs where they land with certificates, a child care certificate, a food sanitary certificate. There's a track for everybody, and I think we can blow some of that out of the water. I lost my train of thought. A child care place, a student wellness center here where we have medical people on staff and more counselors, the physical space for that. There's just all kinds of ways that we can get better and stronger and make sure that we're a part of 2023.
Awesome. Okay, some instant reaction questions here. We're going to fire these quick so you don't get any.
You did not tell us.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you that part. So we're just going to go.
Is
So
this
you
like a contest?
you start first.
Oh.
Okay.
You get the first one. We'll just rotate back and forth. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Know the drill?
I understand where you're coming
All right.
from.
Mrs. Seegmiller, you're first. Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, Pepsi.
McDonald's or Wendy's?
McDonald's.
Jimmy John's or Subway?
Jimmy John's.
Eggs, scrambled or over easy?
It's your turn.
Oh, over easy.
Spaghetti or lasagna?
Spaghetti.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Dunkin'.
Pancakes or French toast?
French toast.
Pulled pork or brisket?
Brisket.
Country music or classic rock?
Yes.
Cake or pie?
Ooh. Ooh. My mom's cake, but if it's not my mom's cake, I go with pie.
Excellent. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you very much for your time. I know it's time out of the day. We talked about how much time you spend here and how much time you really don't have to give. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that you sat down with us and kicked things off. I hope that everybody enjoyed the episode. I hope everybody got to know you a little bit better, and it certainly was good for me to, although we work together and have daily conversations, it's nice to hear what your passions are and kind of where your roots lie and where you come from. So really appreciate the time and effort today, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. A little preview for our upcoming episode is we're going to have Mrs. Knoll and Mrs. Romine on next. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Go Knights.
Thank you for listening to The ToKnight Show, a broadcast of Arthur Lovington Outwood Hammond Community Unit School District number 305. Special thanks to today's guests. This podcast is produced for you by the Arthur Lovington Outwood Hammond Broadcasting class.